Small Business Show. I'm your host, Lori Brooks. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I had the absolute pleasure of chatting with Elizabeth Miner. A digital nomad of almost 10 years, Elizabeth brings her global knowledge of the benefits of emotional intelligence to the entrepreneurs as a coach, speaker, and author. Her most recent book, The Entrepreneur Advantage: Emotional Intelligence for Building and Growing Your Business, shows founders, investors, and executives how to use emotional intelligence to succeed in business, regardless of industry, market, or funding. Prior to launching her own company, Elizabeth gained 20 years of governance experience as a paralegal working with startups and entrepreneurs and at enterprise organizations such as Thermo Fisher Scientific and Apple Inc. Elizabeth, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
I am super happy to be here, Lori, and thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to dive into your journey as an entrepreneur and your practice now and your books and your public speaking. But before we get there, I want to rewind the clock. I want for you to imagine being 7 to 10 years old, somewhere in that range, when, say, an aunt or an uncle, or even your parents would ask you, what did you want to be when you grow up? What was your answer to that question?
I think the first thing I wanted to be when I grew up was a teacher. I think that was the first thing. I hadn't really thought about it recently, but yeah.
You wanted to be a teacher, and as you grew up, what made you go towards that or away from that as you got older?
I ended up kind of falling into a career. I was a young mom, and I was a waitress at the time. And being a mother, you figure out very quickly, you need a company that's going to give you medical benefits, that's going to allow you paid time off when your kids get sick, and those kinds of things. And so I worked my way into a corporation. And so I ended up falling into the legal field, which sounds kind of silly, but that's how it happened. I never pursued going to college as a teacher. I never went to college because I was having babies at the time. Everybody else was going off to school. So I built my career before I actually decided what I wanted to be. It kind of decided for me.
It's not necessarily a choice at times. It's just the ebbs and flows of life and how things transform and evolve. And that's how certain journeys come about.
For about 20 years, I was in the legal world, mostly in the corporation. I did work in some boutique law firms, and I worked with entrepreneurs and startups. I did a very, very small amount of real estate law. I did a year plus in Supreme Court litigation, which was really fun. But the majority of it was in corporate law. So, and then international corporate law. So, and I believe there are no accidents, right? Yes, I fell into it. It was a great career for me to be able to raise my children. It was something, because I supported my family as a sole breadwinner. So all that was really important. And it gave me this really interesting understanding of business.
Mm-hmm. You had the opportunity to be in the corporate world, to be in the legal corporate world, not just the corporate world. And you had a good amount of experience. You had a good comfort level, I would say, at that point in life. So what do you feel was the true inspiration for you? What was it that sparked that interest in the entrepreneurial journey?
So one of the interesting things, I had been living abroad. I took a year of retirement in my late 30s, and I moved abroad to an island. and my son did 8th grade out there. And I knew I was only going to live out there for a year, and I would return because I was going to bring my son to the US for schooling. So I went out there, and upon my return, I had taken an online paralegal certification class because I had been a paralegal for so many years. But I thought people are going to have questions when I come back from an island and say, what did you do for this year? Right. So I wanted to keep everything fresh. And I wanted to just add to my qualifications because I was a year out. So when I came back, it was interesting because one of the areas I had not spent a lot of time studying was corporate law, because I felt like it was forms. I felt like it was not creative. I thought it was boring. And when I interviewed with one of the very young lawyers in this boutique law firm that was courting me as an employee, I asked him, I said, so you're young. Why did you not go into litigation? That's really sexy. Or why didn't you go into something else that's, one of the juicy, sexy kind of areas of law? And he said, there's so much about law that's about taking things apart. He said, I wanted to be part of something that was building and creating things. He said, so I'm a corporate lawyer for startups and entrepreneurs. And I was like, boom. There it is. I want this job. So that's how I really dove into entrepreneur law. And so going from that, it was a matter of, I want to be where people are building things. They are solving problems. They are creating something out of nothing. They are pursuing their dreams. And I always wanted to do something to further that for those people.
Outstanding. I love that story. I love the tidbit of inspiration that you received from someone else's journey. And I thank you for sharing that insight, because it's funny. The inspiration and the motivation come from the craziest places. You're never going to have a clue what they are. And it's not until you have the moment to take a step back, really kind of look at what happened, to even recognize sometimes where those moments originated for the journey. So I thank you for sharing that, definitely.
My pleasure. So, Steve Jobs has that comment about you can only connect the dots when you're looking backwards.
Exactly. Hindsight is only 20/20 in reverse. Definitely. So tell us, you are now public speaker. You are now a coach, a corporate trainer. You are an author. Share with us about where you are today in your practice.
So right now I just spent 7 years on the road. I was a digital nomad. So I have been traveling around the world, working with entrepreneurs around the globe, building communities, business communities for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurship can be such a lonely journey. So I have found that building communities is super helpful for entrepreneurs, where they can collaborate, where they can learn from each other and that type of thing. So I've been doing that for the last 7 years on the road, various locations. And I am now creating a home base in Boston. It is my home city, but I have come out here to drop anchor for a little bit. I still travel quite a bit, but this is where I am for right now, and working on building communities out here in the Boston area. So I run right now an online group for entrepreneurs, and it's called the Entrepreneur Circle, and we host a free weekly session, and we just actually give people a chance to learn from each other, to learn from myself and my partner who run that group. And so we'll do educational sessions from time to time, and then people will share their experiences as well. So that's been really powerful. The Founder Circle is another organization community that I'm working on also with my partner, which is an in-person entrepreneurial journey support coaching system. So we're doing that for a limited number of people, and that should be expanding in the years ahead. So that's really fun. Meeting entrepreneurs like yourself at various events, much like Innovation Studios held at District Hall. I'll be going to their grand reopening in Roxbury when they have the reopening there, you know, those types of things. So, and then I coach online. So I have clients all around the world, and I have been doing online coaching for about 10 years, since 2000, well, actually since 2016, 15. I've been doing online coaching. So before everybody else knew about Zoom, and doing that. And I'm also an author. So I'm always either in process or promoting a book. So
very nice. So the journey unfolds. It goes from one area to the next, and believe it or not, you brought it full circle, because whether you like it or not, you're still in the education space now.
You know, it's fascinating, because yes, I did end up in that role, not as I would have expected, but.
Right. No, it's funny. We never expect things to be the way they actually turn out. But if we actually look back and pay really close attention to the way that we were thinking of things, or what it is we were planning on, in one way, shape, or form, they always manifest in itself.
Yes. And if we pay attention, all the jigs and jags in the journey, they all make sense. Like, I could not have been a business coach without all those years of business experience, both multinational corporations doing international law for businesses, and as well with the entrepreneurs and the startups. So I got all sorts of great value out of those years that I was doing something that is not where I am now. So it's always, if you find yourself in some space that you're not quite sure how it really fits in, just wait. It'll show up somewhere around the journey.
Yep. Just appreciate it. Take it in. Soak in whatever knowledge is there at that point in time, and hang on to it. So hang on to it. Put it in your pocket. Those things will come up later and be extremely useful. So
generally happens that way. Yes.
If you had the ability to go back, say 10, 15 years, and tell yourself one thing, what do you feel like that one thing would be?
I have talked about this on a couple of interviews. And this is part of why I do what I do. I tried to start, or had anticipated starting, about 7 businesses before I started the one that I currently have. And I got talked out of 7 business. I got you're not smart enough, you're not experienced enough, you don't have this, you don't have that, who do you think you are, you know, whatever. And so what I would say to myself, what I say to the people I coach, what I say to your listeners and subscribers is, nobody knows what's in your heart. Nobody knows how hard you're willing to work for this but you. Nobody knows your sense of need to do this. Don't let anybody talk you out. Listen to people's thoughts and ask questions. Don't, automatically dismiss it as they don't know, but ask the questions and then take it in and collate it yourself and decide, is this true for me? Really, if they say, well, you don't know enough about this, think to yourself, is that something you can go and get education on? And is that true? Do you need to know it? And can you get information on it? Or can you hire for that? There's a whole bunch of questions you could ask that I didn't have enough sense to say, yeah, maybe I don't know that, but I can backfill for that, or I can study that, or I can whatever. I was just like, yeah, you're right. And then I just stopped listening, and I was like, yeah, I maybe I don't know how to start a business. Guess what? I'm going to do it.
Right. Right. Making up your mind is so important. Just making up your mind to go for it and to do it is truly, truly important. But I love how you explained that you're going to hear that voice, that nagging little voice, whether it is in your own head or out of someone else's mouth. That voice is going to be there. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It appears and it's going to deter you. And really just having the fortitude and recognition to push forward is super important. There's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And as long as we take whatever is given to us, grow from it, you can't fail. You've learned a lesson. And that lesson, as you mentioned a little bit ago, we take those together, put them all together, pile them up, and that's going to create that journey. And little do later on, it's going to pop out in the journey and be more useful than you could imagine. So, no,
exactly.
Definitely.
Sarah Blakely talks a lot about going into the manufacturing business of manufacturing clothing. And she said, you know, if I had known what I was getting into, I would have realized that I couldn't do what I was trying to do. She said, but because I didn't know I couldn't do what I wanted to do, I was a great success because I made it happen. Because so there's a benefit sometimes to not knowing what you're getting into. So
blissful ignorance is a real thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I would not have written a book had I known what the journey was going to be like. Yeah. And so just getting into it. And once you're part into it, I mean, once you're part into it, you're like, well, I can't stop now. And so just not knowing and getting in, and then you're like, well, okay, let's get it done.
I agree. The show is really designed to help entrepreneurs come up with an idea for a business in an industry they may not have been thinking of. So we'd love to help you. And we'd love to know if, in fact, you had a magic wand and could wave it and change anything at all in your practice. What would that be and why?
Oh gosh, you know, some of the things that frustrate me about business are things that are my own shortcoming. So there's so many things I would like to be able to delegate that I either really am not finding the best opportunity to do that, like in social media, finding somebody that can write in your voice or that can think about the things the way you want them to be presented. That's really tough. Yes, some people are out there and they're fantastic at doing it. There's just some of that it's too personal to me. So it's great that it's out there, but boy, is it time consuming. So that, and then, so that I would love to have a better way of communicating without having to spend hours on social media. And then the other thing is getting better software to work with my contacts and follow up and making sure that I'm making the rounds with people that I've met at a co-working event or that I have done work with in the past. I'm constantly checking in with former clients to find out how their businesses are going, both so that I have fodder for my books, but also to just check in on them. If I haven't seen something for a while, I just want to make sure that their business is still doing well. And if I can help them get over another hurdle, that we're on target to do that. So those types of things, if I could have a better tickler system for that. I've looked and used so many different CRMs and just not one of them. It's much like a planner, right? There's just not one of them that just really ticks all the boxes for me. So you know, still in search of that. So if somebody's out there developing one and they want to send a trial to me to kick the tires, I'm more than happy to take a look at it.
Excellent. Well, I am really looking forward to hearing the results and responses that you receive on that. And please share, because I also am looking for that perfected CRM. You know, I too have gone to one system after another system after another system. So no, I truly would love to see that perfect CRM. Audience, we are waiting for it. We have waved the wand. Get on it.
That's it. That's it. And so if I find something, I will send you an email. I'll let you know.
The same. So please share the best way that our audience can find you.
I am on all the socials. As much as I just said, you know, it's a lot of work. I am on all the socials. I am not on Facebook. So I am on Instagram, Elizabeth Miner Official. And I spell Miner with an E, Miner. I am in LinkedIn, Elizabeth Miner. I spend a fair amount of time on those two social medias. I'm also on Twitter. You can find me there. And I can always be reached both through my website, elizabethminer.net, or by email at elizabeth@elizabethminer.net.
Sounds good. Well, we will be sure to include a link to the website on the show notes page. And I thank you for sharing your journey with us today.
It is my absolute pleasure, Lori. Thank you for having me on here and giving me this opportunity to meet with your people.
Certainly.